Hello students, today we are going to see about World Wide Web or WWW. We are hearing this term in our life for long enough. Okay, ever since we have learning with the internet or networking, we are knowing this World Wide Web term for years. We are going to see what is World Wide Web and what are the components. Okay, so what we are going to see is what is the World Wide Web, then what are the components of the World Wide Web, then client server architecture based on this World Wide Web is working. What is World Wide Web? The World Wide Web, abbreviated as WWW and commonly known as the web or net or internet, etc. Okay, so the World Wide Web was initiated by the CERN, European Library for Nuclear Research Program. So like ARPANET for defense research purpose. CERN is a agency for nuclear research. They have initiated the World Wide Web. Okay, so ARPANET was a network which combined together several universities and research institutions in United States only. But CERN, European Library for Nuclear Research, which coined together or combined together most of the universities around the world itself for research purpose. Okay, so that is the initialization or starting of World Web. Then it is now further developed and managed by W3C, that is World Wide Web Consortium. It's an agency or a consortium or a organization which manages and developing this World Wide Web. Okay, since World Wide Web is free to everyone, it's managed by a consortium. Okay, so keeping the nature of free to everyone. Okay, so the web or World Wide Web consists of millions of documents called web pages. These web pages are linked to another millions of web pages. Okay, so thereby forming a network or a web like the spider web. It's going together to form a web of documents. Okay, so these pages are stored in web servers and are fetched and displayed by web browsers. Okay, so two programs are there. So stored in web servers. So it can be either be a program or a computer itself, then fetched and displayed by web browsers in the user's computer. Then World Wide Web is based on several different technologies. For example, web browsers, HTML, HTTP, etc. and etc. Okay, so we are going to see the basic component web. Okay, so there are three components of web. Okay, basically the World Wide Web is built on three components. Okay, at the very basic. First one is Uniform Resource Locator, the URL. It serves as a system for resources on web, how to identify the resource we are searching. Then second one is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, specify the communication of browser and a server. Okay, or implement the communication or implements a communication system between the server and the browser. Okay, and hypertext markup language. It's a language defines structure, organization, and the content of a web page. How to create a web page, how to modify the web page, and how to create or how to manage the behavior of this particular web page. Okay, so these are the basic three components of the World Wide Web. Next one, we are going to see each one in detail. First one we are going to see is URL. URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. It is also known as the web address or resource address on the internet. How we can identify a resource, particular resource we are searching for is denoted by this URL. Okay, below you can see this a basic syntax or basic example of a URL. Okay, first you can see a protocol, then web server name, in which server our page is located, using which protocol. So HTTP is only one protocol. There are multiple different protocols are there, and then which protocol, using which protocol we are accessing this data or information, then which server this particular information is stored, then directory through which directory it is served, and then file name for particular file name. For example, it can be an HTML file or a JPEG file, for example, for an image, and then a PDF file, then it can be a movie file, etc. Okay, then the first part of the URL is called the protocol identifier, using which protocol we are accessing the information. Then the second part is called the resource name. Okay, so the name of the resource or location of the resource. Then third part is the directory name, in which directory it is served in the server. And then the final part is the file name with its extension, the extension of the file name we are trying to access. If it is a web page, the extension will be .html. If it is an image, extension will be .jpeg or any other image format. Okay, so I hope you got the content of a URL, okay, or basic architecture of the URL. Okay, there are three main type of URLs are there: absolute URL, relative URL, and fragment URL. Okay, so absolute URL means the complete path to a file. Then relative URL means the path related to another web address. Then fragment URL means searching with the file name instead of a hash symbol. Okay, so instead of file name there will be a hash symbol there. So that means you can access any of files in that particular directory itself. So these are the three main type of URLs: absolute URL, relative URL, and fragment URL. Next we are going to see is hypertext transfer protocol. Okay, so it is used to define the format of the transmission, then transmission of the web pages, and actions performed by the web server in response to users request. Okay, so it is used to define the format of a request, and then transmission of web pages between server and browser, and then actions performed by the web server in response to users request. How a web server should respond based on the request from the user. Then it's a set of rules for transmitting or transferring data from one computer to another, usually from server to browser and browser to server. Okay, so HTTP provides a standard between a web browser and a web server to establish communication. It is the main protocol behind establishing a communication between the web browser and a server. Okay, if the communication existed, only then we can transfer the information. Okay, then HTTPS is an advanced form of HTTP which has an additional layer for security. Okay, so hypertext transfer protocol secured, that is HTTPS. Okay, so it has an additional layer for security. So it has a certificate for each and every website, which denotes this particular website is secured. Okay, so next we're going to see how HTTP works. Okay, so first the URL entered by the user is sent to the domain name server. Okay, so the domain name system, the URL and the domain name system. So the IP address is there. Okay, it's a set of numbers separated by dots. Okay, then it is very hard to remember each and every IP addresses. So domain name system is there. So for each and every IP addresses, there is a unique name also there. For example, www.school.com. Then school is the domain name, and then .com is the domain extension. Okay, so like that there will be a unique domain name for each and every sites. Okay, so then this URL is sent to the domain name server. Then domain name server first check the records for this particular URL in their database. So each and every name of the websites will be there in the domain name server. Then they check in the database, and then if that is found, if that URL or if that domain name is found, then it will return the IP address, correct IP address corresponding to a particular domain name we are searching to the web browser used by the user. Then the browser is able to send request to the actual server. Okay, where this particular IP address is located, this browser will be sending a requesting this particular information. Then the particular server sends the data back to the client or the browser which requested this information. Okay, so let me explain with an example. Okay, so for example, we are accessing the Facebook. Okay, now we are searching in the web browser. In the top of the address bar, we are searching facebook.com. Then this HTTP will transfer this request to the domain name server. It will search in the domain name server for the facebook.com. Okay, So there will be multiple Facebooks will be there. Instead of FACEE double B double OK. Okay, instead of that, instead of double O's, there will be a U there. So multiple type of Facebooks will be there. Correct Facebook address will be found there. Okay, then that particular address is given back to the browser. Okay, by sending the IP address along. Okay, then the browser will send a request to the actual server which holds the Facebook website. Okay, then the browser will send a request to that particular server. Then the server will request accept the request and then send us back the pages corresponding to facebook.com. Okay, so this is how HTTP works. Next, we are going to see about HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a language used to design and create web pages. Okay, it's a standard markup language used to design and create web pages. So it's an easy to understand and a flexible language there because of this easy and flexible nature. HTML is the widely used design language to create web pages. Then based on the use of web pages creating, or based on the type of web pages created by this HTML, there are two types of HTML design are there. HTML for static web pages. Static web pages means there is no interaction between client and that particular page. We can just view the page and then read the information and close it. Okay, then DHTML for dynamic web pages. Dynamic web pages which interact with the user using forms and then such as elements for interaction. For example, this checkboxes, drop down lists, etc. will be there, and then multiple movies will be there, etc. will be there. Then hypertext means text having link to other pages. So you may have familiar with the term hyperlink. Link means a connection between another page and a particular page. So hypertext means text having links to other pages. Next, we are going to see the client server architecture. The architecture or the structure behind the working of World Wide Web. Okay, so the World Wide Web is client server software design. Okay, so a client is a computer. There are two parts are there for client server architecture, which is client and a server. So a client is a computer which is capable of receiving information or using a particular service. Okay, so client is a system or a computer or a user which is only capable of receiving information and sending requests only, not able to provide information, which is only able to receive information or a service. Then a server is a remote computer which provides the information, receive the request from the client and then provide information or a service. Okay, so in the client server architecture, when the client sends a request for the data to the server, then server accept this request and deliver the data back to the client. That's how the client server architecture works. So it the client request for data, the server accepts this particular request and then sends the data back. That's how the client server architecture works. Okay, so then working of client server model, how the client server model works. Okay, the users ends a URL of a particular website or a particular file itself. Then the browser then requests the domain name server. Okay, then DNS server look up the address in the web server. The address is found, then DNS server responds with the IP address of the web server. Okay, so the IP address is returned. Then the browser sends over an HTTP or HTTPS request to the web server's IP. Okay, to that particular IP address, it sends a request. Then the server sends over the necessary files or the website itself back to the client. Then browser then renders these files and websites and then it is displayed on the client's computer. So that's how client server architecture works. Okay, through these steps, the basic working of client server architecture. Okay, then next we are going to see the other components of World Wide Web. The protocols other than HTTP used for client server communication are there. Are also other protocols are there. FTP. We have already learned about this FTP protocol, file transfer protocol. It is used for exchanging files over the internet and works similar to the HTTP. Okay, it is the working is very basically similar to HTTP. Then SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol. It is a protocol for sending email and messages between the servers or server to client or client to client. Then TCP or IP. Then transmission control protocol or internet protocol. It is a suite of two protocols which is used to connect hosts on the internet. Okay, to connect between different devices, which is used by the World Wide Web. Then Telnet protocol. It is basically a program running on the client's computer which is used to perform this remote login or remotely accessing another system. Okay, so that is the protocol components, other protocol components of World. Next, we are going to see about other software components of World Wide Web. First one is website. A website is a collection of web pages and related contents that is identified by the common domain name and published on at least one web server. Okay, so a website is a collection of web pages. We have already said about web pages. Okay, it's a collection of web pages that is called a website. Okay, so which having a related content, not about multiple contents. It is a particular set of web pages about related content, and it is published on at least one web server. Then only we can access that. Then web browser. So web browser is a software application which enables the user to display and interact with the information that could be on a website. To view and interact with the website, we need to have a program called a web browser. Okay, so for example, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, Apple Safari, etc. Then finally, web server. It's a program which can refer to either the hardware or software. It can be hardware or software or combination of both, which helps to deliver the web content that can be accessed through the internet. So web server is a program or system or a computer itself or a combination of a device and a software which delivers the information or which stores the information and delivers as per request. So that is what web server is. Okay, so that's all we are going to see. Thanks for watching and learn all this concept I have explained here. Then we will see with another topic in the next class.